Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Access Mutual Funds podcast series. Today we're going to cover the entire equity market and the entire spectrum of large, mid and small, and how multicap kind of adds into your portfolio. And to guide us here today we have Hitesh Das. Hitesh has been a veteran in the mutual fund industry with over 15 years of experience and with over 10 years of experience with us, Access Mutual Fund. So welcome Hitesh.
Thank you, thanks.
Hitesh also looks at multiple equity funds, and one of the fund out of so many is Multicap. So let's dive into Multicap straight up.
Sure.
So Hitesh, in terms of Multicap, could you explain our viewers how does it work in terms of the flexibility that there is? How does that work?
Actually, multi-cap funds offer a unique sort of a portfolio where you have invested across the whole spectrum, which is the market cap buckets of large, mid and small, right? And you have 25% flexibility of where you can add large, mid or small cap stocks. So that is a very unique kind of portfolio versus any other diversified portfolio because it captures the growth opportunities across the large, mid and the small cap spectrum, right? And as fund managers, we have that flexibility to use the incremental 25% as per our conviction, as per our stock selection philosophy, so that we can generate that alpha for the investors. This kind of flexibility is actually the beauty of the multi-cap strategy because an investor is definitely invested at least 25% in large, mid and small. So he has that risk and reward of all the three market cap buckets, and then there is an additional which is as per our investment philosophy based on our earnings visibility, based on our valuation analysis, right? So that's why this flexibility is actually the beauty of a multi-cap strategy.
So any example you want to add over here that helps the viewers to understand the percentage of flexibility more?
Okay, so for example, for example, let's say a sector like IT, where we have large caps, we have reasonable sized mid caps and a small cap portfolio as well, right? And in our Access multi-cap fund, we have invested across all the three capitalization buckets. So we have invested in large caps, mid and small caps, and we have been able to capture the growth which is being generated, higher growth which is being generated by the mid and the small cap names, while the large cap names offer while they have been underperforming over the last 1 year or so, but they have a good valuation comfort where we can see that if there is a turnaround in their growth, we'll generate that alpha over here. So from a broader perspective, if we take a step back, we see that it captures the mature market, which is the large caps, and also captures the emerging market, which is like the the mid and the small cap stocks, for, like internet stocks, EMS stocks, etc. Right? So there where the growth potential is higher, and versus the growth is slightly lower in the large cap universe.
Great. I think this really helps, for the investors, because then for an investor, it's literally like putting in money across all sectors with only one fund.
Yeah.
Great. So my follow-up question to you is, why Access multi-cap fund? So there are multiple multi-cap funds in the industry. What is different in our fund is something that you could cover.
Yeah, so as per our philosophy of stock selection, of sector selection, we have been focusing on companies which generate good ROE, who have sustainable cash flows, and obviously that also dives down to good valuations as well. So if you look at our Access multi-cap fund, it is very well diversified across the three buckets, right, large, mid and small. And we have taken a call that the extra 25% flexibility that you talked about, we have seen that we have got a good valuation with reasonable sort of growth in the large cap space. So we've been slightly ahead in that large cap proportion. So that's one. Second, as I said, it's very well diversified from across sectors. We have captured both the high growth themes like power T&D, capital goods, etc. Also, we have on the other hand also have good exposure to mature sectors like banking and financial services, insurance, etc. So it's a good mix of both, as I talked about, emerging sectors as well as mature sectors.
Great, great. So, someone who's actually building a long-term, portfolio, how does multicap in that ways fit into a long-term view or long-term portfolio into that investors bucket?
So there are two sides to it, right? So one is obviously he is invested, as I said, across large, mid, and small. And mid and small companies in India have actually come up a long way. So if we take 10 years back and 10 years now, their access to capital markets to raise funds, their access to the talent pool because they can give ESOPs, etc. now is much, much better than they were like 10 years back. They also, many of them, the mid and the small companies have very good, strong balance sheet, deleveraged balance sheets. So it gives an investor a good opportunity to ride through the cycle of the mid and the small cap universe, while also on the other hand have a good return and risk profile from a large cap space. So that's one. So he can ride through the cycle of the small and the mid cap when it becomes larger. So a company may actually go from small to mid to a large. So that's a journey he can traverse across multi-cap funds. So that's one. Second, I think from a data perspective, we look, but on a 2-year basis, is actually the mid cap. Okay. So it's never one or the other which sort of keeps on sustaining returns. So if you are invested across all the three buckets, more often than not, you will enjoy reasonable returns.
Great. So a follow-up question to that comes in my mind is, does this become like a core investment or this is like a satellite investment that I should have? Like, what do you think it should be?
No, I think, because it's a diversified fund, it can become a core investment. And because he's leveraging across sectors, as I talked about, right? So right from larger sectors like banking, IT, to newer sectors like internet, etc. There's a whole plethora of sectors one can invest in, and he can leverage the growth opportunities from each sector, right? Sectors. And we have the opportunity to rotate between sectors as well. So that's the point I think it becomes a core investment for any investor.
Great, I think that really helps and very well put, because this kind of puts out a clear understanding in terms of all sectors and so many sectors. So any sectors that you think that are bullish in the current market scenario? What do you think, because we have so many across?
So I think if you look at our fund specifically, we have been increasing exposure to BFS sector as a whole over the last 6 months. We think there has been a turnaround in growth. Some of the issues in terms of structural issues which were there earlier are not here. We have seen loan growth, credit growth actually pick up, and valuations are reasonable. So I think we have been reasonably bullish on that sector over the last 6 months or so. So banking and financial services.
Great, great. So I've heard a lot of your interviews earlier, and you generally talk about quality funds quite a bit. Could you elaborate on that fund in terms of multi-cap?
Okay. So quality, I think one has to sort of split it between two, qualitative and quantitative factors. So qualitative is actually, what the company strives for. So a competitive edge or a moat within the company, if you sort of call it the right to grow, right? The company should have a competitive edge. It may be technology, it may be, network effects, it may be just sheer scale, etc. And that is one that the company should definitely have in terms of quality. The second one should definitely be a competent management and good corporate governance in the company. So these two actually dovetail to quantitative factors like high ROE of the company, ROE which is better than peers, right? Return on equity, or sustainable cash flows. So cash flows should be consistently sustainable for that company to be in that quality criteria.
Okay. So any criteria that you really look at while choosing a stock or a company, which is like a non-negotiable for you? Which one would that be?
As I said, within the quality universe, we obviously look into that right to win, and the corporate governance. So these two continue to be our sort of
Could you
filters.
explain right to win? What does that in a little simpler form?
For example, right to win in a simpler form. Let's say network effect. So network effect is like in an internet setup, a company becomes very large. For example, food delivery companies, right? Because they continue to become large, they continue to attract more and more consumers onto their platforms, and it provides that so the cost to acquire new companies keeps on falling off.
Sure.
It aids to profitability, and you get that growth which is much more long term. So you look at food delivery companies, or all these quick commerce companies which have consistently been scaled on the basis of these network effects.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And that and corporate governance
Yeah.
is another point
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you definitely
Yeah.
look at. Great. So that also says that these parameters gonna differentiate us
Yeah.
from the industry, because we look at these very, very closely.
Yeah.
That brings another question to my mind is, how do you strike the right balance between, investing across market caps? Like, what is the right balance there?
I think the right balance is to select a sector or a stock which can generate that alpha. I think it may be a mid, small, or a large cap stock, right? The first focus is, as I said, in our stock selection process, to get that sector or get that stock in the portfolio to generate that additional return for the investor. It may be across any of the market caps, and as I said, none of the market caps is like consistently returning or being at the top quartile. So most of the focus is actually going on stock selection, on sector selection, rather than on the cap selection.
Okay. Hitesh, tell me, when do you rotate between these sectors in terms of sector rotation? How do you look at that?
I think, see, any sector comes with some key characteristics. As I said, right, there is right to grow of companies and there is room to grow of companies. So there is the TAM, which is the room to grow, and the right to grow as a was a moat or a competitive edge of the company. And that dovetails into earnings visibility, growth, ROE, cash flow. So whenever we think that some of these parameters are getting adjusted either positively or negatively, we tend to act obviously in our portfolios. And sometimes also because of bottom up stock selection, we do get more ideas within one particular sector. So that also leads to readjustment of the portfolio or a sector rotation, as you call it. So it happens sort of both ways. It's not that it happens one way or the either.
Okay, so is this like a typical shift when you have valuations, when you see valuations or you see earning visibility, etc.? Do you look at these parameters as well, or it's...
Yeah, I think yes, you hit the nail right. I think we do look at earnings visibility and growth at reasonable valuation. So whenever we think, right, valuations do get a bit rich, we do tend to sort of think about it, how the company will do, how the sector will do, and we act on it.
You want to give an example here?
Maybe sectors like in terms of example, like banking I talked about,
Yeah.
right? Very clear case, like 6 to 9 months back, there was initial signs of credit growth turning around. So earnings visibility improving. Second, increasing credit growth obviously leads to improving earnings and hopefully better ROE. And we also saw that valuations have been very muted for the banking space, especially. It was very reasonable, and the stocks had actually not done well for 2 years as a sector. So we actually, as I said, we have increased banks. We used to actually run underweight banks a year back.
Okay.
Now actually we have increased that considerably. If you look at our banking exposure, as you talked about, it's large, mid and small. So we have small cap banks as well, we have mid cap banks as well, and large cap banks as well.
Yeah, so it like one doesn't even need to look at separate sectors when they are invested in multi-cap. Great. So, following up, when someone is invested in multi-cap, what mindset should they have, while staying invested? What is the mindset they should have?
See, I think key thing is, mid and small cap sectors, the investment thesis plays out over a long duration, right? So one has to be very patient. There can be times of volatility as we have seen in the last 1 year or so. I think for any investor in a mutual fund and also in a multi-cap strategy, one should be invested for a long term and not for any near-term gains. That's the main sort of focus for any investor should have. And yeah, I think patience is one, and he should realize that in many cases, because it's invested in 3 buckets, you will get both the risk and the reward of every bucket. So that one should obviously keep in mind while investing in a multi-cap strategy.
So I think we've had a great conversation. Thank you for being here. Before we kind of end this entire session, can we quickly summarize this entire session into why should me as an investor put money in Axis Mutual Fund in terms of multi-cap fund?
I think from an Axis multi-cap perspective, as I said, it's a very well diversified strategy. As along with the sectoral spread, it's got a reasonably good sectoral spread across mature sectors, emerging sectors as well. So India being a developing economy where we think the nominal growth rate should continue to be strong, for the medium to the long term, I think these sectors like the small and the mid cap sectors give you that additional alpha, and the mature sectors obviously give you that risk reward benefit as well. So one is that. The second is obviously because as a multi-cap strategy you're invested across the 3 buckets, you get the benefit of all the 3, right? And you can ride through the cycles of some of the companies from a small cap to a mid cap to a large cap, which we have seen across the last 10 years, right? And that journey is slightly accelerating. That is one. And the last one I think is none of the the large, mid or small actually keep on outperforming the other 2 for for a continuous amount of time. So you have that flexibility to sort of invest the additional 25% where we feel as per sectoral analysis, as per fundamental analysis, we can make that additional alpha. So it's that sectoral exposure, that flexibility which helps make any multi-cap strategy, and especially the Axis multi-cap fund, hopefully a good choice for investors like you.
Of course, absolutely. And we've been looking at multi-cap and it's been performing also quite decently, very, very well. So I think it's a great choice. So before we conclude, Hitesh, let's have a quick rapid fire. I have a few questions for you. My first question is one word that describes Indian market today.
Resilient.
Great. Small cap or large cap, which excites you?
No choice between the 2. It's, as I said, more on fundamental analysis.
True. One sector you're the most bullish in?
I think banking and financial service. I think I've been repeating this often throughout our last conversation.
Yeah, I think it's given so many times. So that's a point for you all to note. Great. One investing mistake that you see investors make very often?
I think not riding through the whole cycle of a small cap or a mid cap and giving up.
So that means investors gonna come in in the wrong time and exit the market at...
Or maybe there are many volatilities for any small and mid cap, smaller companies in general. So there may be volatilities. One has to be patient, as I said, for the investment thesis to play.
So long term investing and keeping that as a mindset is very important. Great. I think thank you so much, Hitesh.
Thank you for having me.
No, not at all. It's been a very insightful session, and this really, really helps. Thank you so much.
The pleasure is all mine.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.